Mr. Allen, what is in 1237?
Hello, tiny friends. Welcome back to Tiny Keyhole Minis. I'm Jolene, and this is the miniature build of room 237 in honor of the great Shelley Duvall. If you have not yet seen the intro for this project, I will put a link in the description box below if you'd like to check that out. This is the infamous hotel room from the Overlook Hotel. I believe maybe the scariest room in this hotel, which is seen in the movie The Shining, which is based on the novel written by Stephen King. I'm going to try to get it as close to a replica as I can, working by hand. So that is my goal. This is my October's project, and as bad as I really wanted to create one whole video, I just could not do it. So much work went into this part of the project that I wouldn't have been able to produce a good enough video to show and explain how I created this part. So I am looking at 2 floor plans for the suite, and one is a little more descriptive, so it's a little more helpful for me. And as you can see, this is a pretty huge suite, but I'm only going to be focusing on the bedroom and the bathroom. I also printed out a mini template of the original room box kit that I'm working with, which is the Bentley House Minis 2 Retro Room box. I cut it out, and I thought that this would be a little easier for me while I'm trying to plan on how I'm going to be going about this. So all of this right now is just the brain work and trying to plan and figure things out, basically. I did watch Ara's video tons of times, and I still have more to watch, and it is really helping me decide on what I need to change and how. So it's really helpful, even though I'm not building it according to her instructions on the original build. So right now, I'm just sketching out the original floor plan. So this first line is the double wall that divides both rooms. There's a set of stairs. There's an opening, an arched opening here, and the stairs drop down onto the bigger section of the room box. I'm going to be moving the stairs to the opposite side, the outside wall, and make this wall, this double dividing wall, one solid wall. There's also a wall here. It's a supporting arch wall, and I'm going to move that forward to the front of the room because I'm going to have double walls coming inward, and they're going to be pretty supported. I'm not a professional project planner yet. I don't know if I ever will be. I don't know if my brain will ever get there or adapt to that, or it just doesn't work that way. I like to try to plan things out, and I sort of think I'm doing a good job, but I'm basically just winging it. So sometimes I'll follow through with my plans, and most of the times they just get thrown out the window. And I pretty much do my own thing, in the moment kind of thing. So I've printed out 2 different floor plans. I'm looking at them both. One of them gives me a better visual than the other. I think they both give me different things. So I'm just kind of checking them both out. Now this is the original poster board that will sit on the original floor plan. And what I did next was began to lay everything out to get a visual and to see how much more space I needed. The bathroom floor is not going to look like that. It's just a printout to give me a visual. So I laid down that famous carpet as well, and I'm just trying to figure out exactly how much more floor space I'm going to need. I could probably have used a little bit more, but I don't know where I'm going to put this as it is. So I'm just going to stick to the plan that I'm trying to come up with. I'm beginning with the bathroom because I think that that's going to be the most challenging part of this project. It's got a complicated design and a lot of work. The biggest challenge throughout this process was trying to remember everything that I needed to include in the bathroom. and trying not to forget anything. So I'm beginning with the hard parts first. I think I have a pretty good direction to go in, so I'm going to begin this build. The first thing I'm going to need to do is put the floor together so I have something to build on. It consists of 2 parts, so I'm going to use my craft knife to cut the tabs and glue it together with hot glue. Now that that is done, I can begin to add additional floor space. And I'm just using a tri-fold project board. It's the same size and width, so it works out perfectly. And I'll be able to use this throughout the whole project to build any modifications. Okay, before I begin with my first wall, I want to talk about this tub. I have painted the inside white, and in some of the images, it looks like it's white. In some of the images, it looks like it's a lighter mint green, lighter than the outside color of the tub. Even in the movie, there's a scene where she's coming out of the tub and the tub looks white. And then there's a scene where the old lady is sitting up from the inside of the tub and it looks like a light mint green. So I chose to go with white to tie in a little more of the white to the bathroom. Same with the toilet. The toilet seat sometimes is white, sometimes it looks like a lighter mint green. I chose to go with the white, so I'll be painting the toilet seat white as well. So for the first wall, it originally had a window, and there are no windows in the bathroom. Now this is going to be the arch wall with the sinks. So what I've done was, since it's a double panel wall, you're gluing 2 pieces of cardboard together, I have placed the window section on opposite sides of each other instead of lining them up together. This way, they'll have something solid behind them to give them extra support. The white that you see is a piece of poster board that gets laid onto the cardboard. So I got my first wall done. This is the back wall. I've already placed the wallpaper on it, and I'm just getting a visual of where the sinks are going to be. So I'm going to use this original arch wall for a template to create a new wall. I've got the new wall completed. This is the outside part of the sink wall, and these smaller pieces are actually going to be the side walls to the arch. These side walls have recessed shelves in each one, so I'm just doing a dry fit so that I can mark off approximately where my sinks are going to sit and where my shelves are going to begin. I've already painted the top half of this wall with white acrylic and laid down the green wallpaper. So I'm just using a pencil to lightly mark where I need to place these. I went ahead and sketched out where I need to cut the opening. They're like long rectangles, and I'm just going to use my craft knife to cut these pieces out. The side walls will consist of 3 panels. The back wall will be a solid wall, and then there will be 2 that are cut out. This will give me the depth I need to set my shelves inside. So for the back wall, I added my mirror, and this is just adhesive mirror sheet for crafts. I purchased it off of Amazon. It's very good quality, and it is a little costly, but the quality is excellent. It has a very strong adhesive on the back, but I always add additional glue, and it is a real mirror. It also is easy to cut with scissors or a craft knife. So now that that is in there, I carefully glued these pieces together, and I'm using Beacon 3-in-1 glue, and I'm carefully lining the inside with wallpaper. Again, I'm taking my time, trying very hard not to get any glue on the mirror, because I did have to remove the film because of the way this was put together. I'm going to start with the bottom shelf, which looks like a black box. So I'm using 4 pieces of mat board, and I'm just stacking them together. I'm going to wrap this piece with a thin sheet of black cardstock. It's almost like construction paper, but feels like cardstock. This just pops right in and gets glued down. For my glass shelves, I'm using a hard piece of trash plastic, and I created the metal brackets out of cardstock. I've added glue onto the brackets, and I'm gluing them to the side walls. This will eliminate glue getting onto the mirror. This is how they're looking so far. And now I'm going to add the wallpaper. I'm going to add the wallpaper onto one long strip of poster board that will cover the whole entire arch. But I'm going to need 2 pieces of wallpaper that are going to actually meet in the middle of the top of the arch. Before I glued my panels together, I actually traced the opening onto the wallpaper so I know what to cut out. And because there's no trimming around the shelf unit, it looks like a smooth transition all the way around the opening. So in order to achieve this look, I am cutting an X in the box and I'm going from one corner to the opposite corner and repeating the process. This will give me 4 flaps that I can fold back. So I'm going to use my ruler to get nice crisp folds. This piece here will need to be trimmed down in order to fit the size of the wall. I'm giving the poster board a nice generous coverage of 3-in-1, and I'm going to carefully and slowly lay down the wallpaper, making sure that it's lined up with the edges and it's nice and straight. I flipped over the poster board and now I'm using tacky glue to fold back and glue down the flaps. This is what it looks like. And now I have a nice clean edge around my opening without having to put any trimming down. Moving on to the bathtub wall, all of my arch walls have pretty much the same process. I'm using this piece as a support wall for the top of the arch so that the top of the arch has something to glue onto and a little bit of support. And I'm giving the back of the walls an extra bead of hot glue for added support. The tub has a step up and sits on a platform inside the arch, so I'm going to create this with 2 pieces. On the inside of my arch walls, I've left an open space on the bottom, and this will allow those walls to sit on the platform and the front walls to sit flush with the floor. And then I can just glue the front step into place like so. Now that I have these 2 walls completed, we're going to take a good look at their structure. So we'll be closing off the front side, the back side, and also the top so that you don't get to see all that's inside in between the 2 panels. This is what it looks like. Here's a closer look at the recessed shelves with the mirror backs. Now I just have to duplicate this wall for the toilet wall that will be the double wall between the bedroom and the bathroom. Minus the recessed shelves, but there will be recessed toilet paper holders. I will eventually add trimming to the top and also to the corners to hide that connection between the 2 walls. The bathtub will sit inside this arch. There is a little bit of a lip where the yellow trimming is so that I can later glue in the shower curtain. So that is what this wall looks like. I still have to add the shower heads. It's a double shower head, and finish off the trimming on this one. Okay, moving on to the bottom layer of the base that will cover the additional floor space. This part right here is going to be a level down. So this is where the stairs are going to sit. And then the large section where the ruler is sitting, that's actually going to be raised up a level. So in the original kit, it's just the dining room space that is raised up. And I decided to raise both rooms in order to place the steps on the outside of the bedroom. So I put the steps together and I actually ran the trimming all the way around the back as well to cover up the corrugation so that I have something solid to attach the glue to. So it's not seeping through the corrugation of the cardboard when I attach it to this side panel. This is the original supports that level up the dining room in the kit. I'm going to use this as a template to create longer pieces, and I'm going to lay them in two different directions. Okay, I jumped right ahead and installed those two walls. I still need to add the corner strips to conceal that connection. This is the back wall for the tub. I can't install that yet. And here is the wall for the toilets. This is the double wall, so the other side is the bedroom. This is what it looks like. Basically the same, but slightly different. This wall is a lot taller, and I started to forget how I created those. So I still need to add the trimming, and there is a little bit left to do. This is the bedroom wall where the dresser will sit in this nook, and I do have some plans for this wall as well. I'll be installing this wall later on. Right now I'm going to need the open space to install all these parts. So I'm going to begin working on the sinks, and I am using bead spacers to create some of the hardware. I'm going to create water knobs that go underneath the sink and actually connect to the pipes. These are the pipes. They are made from cotton swab sticks. This is a great technique that I learned from Bentley House Minis, and I will also put a link in the description box to Queen City Minis, and you can see how Shira used this technique as well. I like to line up my bead spacers in order so that I know how to put them together. This is me trying to be an organized crafter. I'm creating the little knobs that will go underneath the sink for the water pipes. I'm using super glue and 3 bead spacers, and I'm just gluing them together. And this is what they look like. And I'm also going to add a bead spacer to the bottom of the sink. The pipe will fit perfectly inside the hole, and I can glue it into place. I've given the pipes a layer of white gesso, and it turns out that it's just like chalk paint. So chalk paint would work just the same. And now I'm painting them with my silver chrome marker. The gesso or chalk paint will act as a primer and keep the chrome paint sitting on the surface and not soaking into the paper. For the legs to the sink, I'm going to use my K&S metal shapes, and I'm just sizing them right now to cut them down. So I'm going to cut them down with my cutters. Once I cut these shapes down, the ends will be pinched close and flat, and I'm just going to sand them back to their round shape. Now I can go ahead and install those. I'm using super glue to install these, and for added detail, I'm using bead spacers to the tops of the legs. This will help cover up the holes that they're going to be sitting in. For the bottoms of the legs, I'm using these little grommets as caps, and they just fit perfectly over these little poles. This adds more realism to the sinks and really gives these sinks that mid-century design. On the wall where the toilets sit, there is also a towel holder that's shaped like a ring. I'm going to create that using a bead, some aluminum wire, and this scrap piece of wood left over from when I made the soap dishes. So it matches the soap dishes perfectly. Right now I'm just taking my needle file and beveling the edges. I'm also using the needle file to flatten the back of the bead. This will give it a little more support when it's glued to that tiny base. I'm using a little super glue to glue the bead to the base. I'm going to go ahead and paint it to match the green in the bathroom. Once this dries, I'm going to give it about 2, maybe 3 coats of satin varnish by Duraclear. I let this dry overnight and I forgot to take out the toothpick. So if you want to try this, just make sure to remove the toothpick while the paint is still wet, because I struggled a little bit and had to break it to take it out, but it did come out. And now I can fit the aluminum wire in. It's a perfect fit. I'm just making sure that all the paint is out and the hole is clear on both ends. I'm just going to use this glue cap to shape the ring. Make some adjustments to get it down to size. Once I'm happy with the size, I can go ahead and cut it with my cutters. Now, this is the process that I use to create this, but later on, I'm going to switch it out and redo the ring. This is how it looks, but I wanted the larger side to be on the top, so I had to redo the ring in order to make that happen. Now I'm going to make the towel racks. There is a towel rack that sits on both sides of the arch wall where the sinks are. Originally, they're the same size, but because the wall closer to the tub is a little smaller, the towel rack is going to be a little smaller than this one, and they're going to be fitted to the wall. Now, I'm using my K&S metal shapes, and I'm just going to super glue these pieces together with a little bit of baking powder. So once I get them all cut down to size and I know they're going to be fitting, I'll glue them together and then I'm going to paint them with my silver chrome marker. I'm also going to use the same grommets for the bottoms of the legs that I used on the sinks. The tops of these poles have open holes, so to close those, I'm just going to use a little bit of wood glue. I'm just going to add a little drop. This will also give them a little bit of a rounder top. I also found these little plastic tubes. I painted those, and these will be the supports that mount the towel racks to the wall. So I'm going to glue them on the ends of the middle bars. To create the mirrors, I'm using a paper template on the back of the mirror sheet, and I've just lined it up to the very edge to have a straight edge that I don't have to cut and to save on the paper. The original mirrors have 3 studs that go around the top, so I'm just going to use some nail art studs to mimic that. These nail studs have flat backs to them, so it's going to work out perfectly for this. I found these studs on Temu, and they have a variety of sizes in the case. They also have an option to get 2 cases, so I picked silver and gold. I'm only going to peel back the film as far as I need to, so the mirrors can still be protected until they're ready to be installed. I'm carefully using a very small bead of tacky glue, and I'm just trying not to smear it on the mirror. If that does happen, you can easily wipe it away with a dry cotton swab and just give it a couple dry wipes to buff it out. Once I get these placed down, I'll cover them back up with the film. I did need to trim down the sides a little more because they ended up to be too wide, but I'm just using the toothpick to try and keep the 2 studs lined up with each other. I did not get this lucky. I did have to do this a couple times, so it was not as easy as it looks here. Okay, I got those done, and I'm just going to set them aside until I am ready to install them above the sinks. Okay, tiny friends, it's time to do a little more work on the floor. The floor was like the tub. In a lot of the images, it was this golden yellow. Sometimes it was a reddish color. So I went back to watch the movie and got a good look at the floor, and it is kind of a reddish color. So I switched that out. Now this is my first floor. And I changed it because I felt like it had too many pieces and I didn't like that. I went in and put a second floor in, and then I spilled water on that. So this one is my third floor and it is off center. It really does throw the whole scene off. So I'm going in for a fourth floor. And because I have the walls already installed, that is going to have to be in multiple pieces. So it is what it is. Now, I printed these on glossy photo paper, and these were my last two sheets. So the new floor had to be printed on matte brochure paper. And I'll show you what I did to gloss that up. It began to get a bit frustrating, but I did get there, and I am much more happier with the end results. So for the new floor, I did choose the red color. I did try to create this red floor in the beginning of the project, and I just couldn't match that color. So with a few tweaks in Photoshop, I worked with the saturation, the opacity, and the brightness. And then I also added a grain filter over the red design, which toned it down some. It really does look a lot like the original floor now. But because this red is a custom color and I just couldn't get there in the beginning, I decided to take the easy route and go with the yellow floor originally, which did not want to happen. It was just not happening. So I only have one more shot to do this because I am very tired of printing them out. I also got 2 glue spots on the yellow floor that are pretty noticeable. So I had to take my time to figure out how I was going to seal this new floor and protect it. And normally I would spray this paper with hairspray because it is an inkjet printer and I always have an issue with my ink bleeding. But I'm out of hairspray, so I use this Rust-Oleum 2x clear gloss, and I just gave it very light coats at an arm's distance away. And I coated it about 4 times, letting each one dry in between, and that gave it a matte finish. After that was nice and dry, I gave it a coat of this Mod Podge Super Gloss. And it only needed 1 coat of this. This is really good if you're trying to make like something super shiny or glossy. For example, the enamel top that I have in the kitchen of the Josephine house, this is what I used to accomplish that look. I gave it a few, layers to make it nice and thick and super glossy, but it does leave behind brush marks because it is Mod Podge. Even using a sponge, Mod Podge is really like finicky, so I don't like to use it as much. After I did the Mod Podge, I went in and gave it a layer of my satin varnish by Duraclear. Now, normally this melts down and gives it a nice smooth finish, so there are no brush strokes, but because the brush strokes had already settled on the floor, it didn't take them away, but that's okay. This now feels like a vinyl and it's very protected, and I'm very relieved that this process worked out because I was very nervous. Also, I noticed that coating this floor with those products changed the base color. So you can see the difference of the 2 base colors. In the beginning, it was a creamish color, and that's how it was when I printed out the red floor, and then it just kind of shifted the tone a bit. But again, it's still completely fine. So let's install this floor and get it over with. Okay, I'm working on the details of the bathtub, and the first is to install the 2 shower heads. These are separate pieces, and for the bigger one, I used a metal button, and then I found this flat sequence kind of embellishment that had folded cuts on it. I thought that would be perfect, and I just poked some holes in it for the sprayer. I glued a grommet to the back of the button so that the metal shape can slip inside and glue into place. I used some aluminum tape to wrap it around the bottom of the metal shape so that it can fit a little better inside the grommet. This one is just a piece of cardstock wrapped around and then wrapped with aluminum tape. And I'm also using a bead spacer for added detail, and that will connect to the wall. So I'm going to poke a hole right here. This is where the bigger one is going to be inserted. And I'll just stick it through this way. The bead spacer will go up against the wall. The second one goes in underneath, and it angles outwards like that. I'm going to add some hot glue to the ends so that they don't go anywhere. And this wall will be covered up, so you're not going to see any of this. Alrighty, for the shower curtain, I have 2 pieces that I'm trying to decide on which one to use. Out of my huge stash of fabrics, I could not believe that I did not have a piece of lace that I was going to be able to use. I was dumbfounded. So I went down to the thrift store at the Goodwill and found one shirt that had 2 options. So now I just can't decide which one I want to use. I wanted to avoid stiffening up the fabric to manipulate the shape. So I'm doing a running stitch. And what I'm doing is pleating it first and then running the stitch through. So I'm just gathering a pleat and then running that stitch through the pleat. This will help keep it shaped. And I really don't know how much of a difference this is going to make because I'm actually gluing this, and I could probably manipulate the shape as I'm gluing it to the lip of the panel. I don't need to pleat the bottom. I'm going to manipulate that with the glue. So again, I really don't know how much pleating the top like this is helping, but again, I was trying to avoid stiffening the fabric. So this is not the piece that I chose, but it's the same process that I used on the other piece that I did choose. I'm going to use hot glue to put this into place, and I am working very small sections at a time, beginning with a very small section at the top. I'm going to glue that into place, and then I'm going to run that hot glue down along the side of this panel and just glue the shower curtain into place. And this is where it will stay put, and I'll have some stability for the shower curtain. It's going to run all the way down to the top of the tub, and then the end of the shower curtain will be draping in front of the tub. Next, I'm going to gather as I glue. So that's why I said I don't know how much this running stitch is really going to help, because I have to kind of manipulate and gather the fabric anyway, but you know, it was part of the thought process. So I'm just gathering small sections and gluing them into place. For the front, I'm just using a little bit of hot glue on the fabric to pinch the fabric closed where I want the pleats to stay put. To make the shower curtain look more natural, I added a tiny little bit of hot glue to the white edge and stuck the curtain there. And then I added a little bit to another spot, which is right on the green part of the tub. During all this, I got the idea to install a shower light and light up the bathtub. Since the fluorescent bulbs are not going to be lit up, they're just there for decoration, I thought this would be a great way to add some sort of light into the bathroom. Since the tub sits directly across from the open viewing wall, installing the light will really add some shine to the main focal point of the bathroom. So I began with drilling a hole in the top of the shower. I chose to use my last light switch for this, and I purchased these off of Evan Designs. It's a really affordable website where you can purchase all sorts of nano chip lights and accessories for your miniature projects. So I've wired 4 lights together because I want this to be super bright. and then I place them inside a metal bead cap. And what I'm doing is separating the blue from the red, and then I'll go ahead and twist all 4 blue, all 4 red, leaving the ends open. Then I can twist the 2 together up to the ends that I have left open. Next, I'll remove the casing off of the ends to have more of the wire exposed. The casing is so thin. I did try a lighter at first. I don't recommend that because it will scorch your wire and that will affect your lights from working. So I'm just using my craft knife to very lightly nick one side of the casing, and then I flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. And this just helps pull it right off. So now I can twist those exposing wires together to create one whole wire. I'm just going to snip the wires down so that they're the same length. And next I can attach the battery holder and switch to the lights. I'm twisting the red with the red, that's the positive side, and then the black is the negative, so the blue will be twisted with the black. And I'm making sure to keep these separated so that they're not touching each other. Now I'm just going to make sure that they're still working and they look pretty good. All 4 lights are working. So I can go ahead and wrap the exposed wire to protect it. If you have a shrink tube, that would be good. This is where you would use it, but I don't have any, so I'm using electrical tape. It works the same way. It's made for the same purpose. It's not as pretty, but it does the same job, and you won't be seeing this anyway. Now that I have them individually wrapped, I can go ahead and wrap them both together so that they're just one piece. I found a good way to use one of my misfit pieces. None of my misfit pieces are unwanted. I always try to find a way to use them. This is actually a resin mold of a bowl. It actually isn't a bowl. It actually is the bottom of a round glass jar, but I also use them as bowls. And this one actually ended up with 2 holes in it, and it didn't cure all the way, so it's not as hard, so it's a little flexible. And I thought it would be a great way to use this. So I just faced the 2 holes towards the back so you can't see them, but you can't see this light anyways. But I really wanted it to have a finished look, so I drilled a hole in the bottom, stuck it up over the chip lights, and glued it to the bead cap. And that is the shower light. So here's a better look at what it looks like. And through all this, I got another idea. And earlier, Abra had asked me if I was going to put the lady in the tub. And I said, oh, no, she's too scary. But I decided to cut out a silhouette. And this is actually cut from my paper Abra, so it's her silhouette. And she will be going in the tub.
The crazy woman in one of the rooms.
I'm also working on some polymer hands, so I stole this one to use for the tub. And that will go right here. I'm creating a daughter-in-law for Miss Margot in the Josephine house, and this was one of her hands. So I'll have to make her another one so she won't have to go without, and she'll have 2. Last, I can finally install the back wall to the tub. So I'm going to do that with hot glue and finally close this off. This completes the tub wall. Onto the toilet wall, which is the last wall for the bathroom. I'm going to begin with installing the towel ring, the lights, and that is all that has to go onto this wall, so it's easy peasy. Once I get this last light on, I'm going to go ahead and install this wall and finish off the trimming. So now I can place the toilets down. Before we look at the final reveal of the bathroom, let's get a quick reminder of what the original kit looks like and where the bathroom was placed. What was originally intended to be the kitchen is now the bathroom. Let's look at it with the lights off. I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of poster board over the ceiling just to see what that looks like. Here are some comparison pictures, and we'll take a final view of the bathroom. Okay, tiny friends, I'm going to keep this outro pretty short because it's all going to go into part 2 when we go through the whole project together. I hope you have enjoyed part 1 and creating the bathroom in room 237. If you have, please hit that like button and give it a thumbs up and let me know what you thought about this part in the comments below. Don't forget to tune into part 2. I'll be finishing off this project with the bedroom, and we'll take an overall look of the whole project. As always, I'd like to thank everybody for subscribing and all your support and helping my channel to grow. I appreciate it so much. So until next time, tiny friends, you all have a lovely day, and I will see you all on the mini side. Bye-bye.